Hello everybody, I'm Carol and this is my card trick block quilt that I love. So much fun to make, so I'm going to show you how to do the block. I usually start by drawing it out so I can understand it better and plan my colour choices. And this was my main inspiration for the colours. My cousin bought me this fantastic fabric with cats on and one with purple flowers to go with it. And to me, this is like having the rest of a bar of chocolate in your fridge where you know it's there and you can't concentrate until you've eaten it all. So I was dying to cut this up. I knew also, though, there wouldn't be enough of this cat fabric to do the whole of the background. So I'm going to add in other fabrics and make it scrappy. So this is how the block is composed. You can tell that I didn't draw this one out because look at that beautiful handwriting. My handwriting is nothing like that. Anyway, this is how the block is composed. It gives the illusion of one card overlapping another. Therefore, it is a good idea to have quite contrasting fabrics. It's made out of 9 squares. So 1 background fabric and then 4 different fabrics of contrasting colours. So we're only going to need 2 different sized squares in all of the colours. So the smaller square I've done 11.5 centimetres and the bigger square that's in 12.5 centimetres. So you need every colour, including your background fabric, in both size squares. Now, all your bigger squares, 12.5 centimetres, you're going to cut them up. So from corner to corner along the diagonals, and you put these 4 little triangles that you will have in all your colours to one side. And we'll come back to them later. So let's start with the corners. So the corners are simply half square triangles. So you take your smaller squares, mine were 11.5 centimetres, and you're going to put them right sides together and trace a line from corner to corner, and this will be your cutting line. You're going to put your foot right up against this line and sew down either side. My seam allowance is 7mm. But the most important thing is to just make sure you're keeping the same seam allowance size. So from this one square, when we cut it open, you'll find that you've got 2 complete squares. So you'll have 1 left over to do a second block. I pressed all the seam allowances to the background colour for the corners. Then you repeat this in all 4 of your fabric choices. So that was easy, but from now on we're going to refer to our diagram to make sure we're sewing the right colours together. So let's make these outside middle squares. So you can see that this is made up of 3 triangles, 2 smaller ones and 1 larger one. Let's start by coming back to the small triangles that we cut out before. So the 12.5 centimetres that we cut into 4, we need 1 background triangle and 1 card colour triangle. Since I'm doing scrappy, this mustard colour is still the background colour. It's just got no cats on it. So once this has been sewn together, we're going to take one of our smaller squares, 11.5 centimetres, and cut it in 2 to make a triangle. And then we're going to stitch that. And this is why it's important to look at your diagram or cut out all your pieces and make sure you're getting them in the right order. So here I have 2 small triangles that I'm going to sew with a larger triangle, and I know which colour I need. So if you find these a bit too large to be dealing with, you can take the bigger triangle and fold it into 2 and put a little crease down that centre, and then you can pin the centre together and it'll just make it easier to manipulate the fabric. So you need to do another 4 of them, but like I say, really making sure that you're sewing the right colours together. Then when I press them out, I am pressing towards the larger triangle. And now we only have the very centre square to go. And this is made up entirely of the big square cut into little triangles that we set aside. So 1 of each colour. Again, referencing your diagram to make sure you have them in the right order. And all we're going to do is sew these 2 together, these 2 together, and then both triangles together to make a square. So in the end, I decided to press the top triangle to the left, the bottom one to the right, so that they would nest up nicely. And then when I've sewn all this together, I'm pressing this big seam allowance, the long one, downwards towards the bottom of the quilt. I'm just trying to get things as flat as possible, but there's always going to be a bit of bulk. So that's all 9 squares sewn together. Now I'm just going to lay them all out so I know which ones have to be sewn next to which other ones. At the start this is a bit tricky, but you do get used to it. So I'm just going to sew them into rows of 3s, and this is why I was paying attention to how I was pressing them, so that they would go together a bit nicer. Rows of 3s, and then I'm going to sew each row together. So with my 3 strips sewn, I'll have to sew them together. So this is how I've decided to press the seams. The top 2, I've put the seams towards the middle. In the second row, the seam allowances are going to the outside, and the bottom row they're going towards the middle again. I'm a big fan of pinning. So that's the first row together, and this is where I'm looking to make sure that it's kind of acceptable. Last one. Let's have a look, and well, it's good enough. I should get that printed on a t-shirt. It's good enough. It's fine, it's pointy. So I gave that a quick press, and then I made lots of blocks in the same way. It was a lot of fun to do this scrappy, choosing a slightly different purple or a slightly different red. It just kept it lively for me to make it, and I really liked the result. I hand quilted it in the end. This is me on the living room table doing some quilt sandwich. Oh, and I did put a border on the bottom of each square. This is 4cm stripy strip. I wanted to put one on the other way as well to make it a bit bigger, but I didn't have enough fabric. It still wouldn't have made a double quilt. So I just left it like that. I liked everything about making this quilt. And in case mine is a little bit too much for you, here's some other examples. This is one at our local quilt shop. They've called it Marché aux Fleurs. This is Ecolène in Rennes, Brittany. Absolutely gorgeous shop. And you could spend every little penny that you had. And in our little patchwork group, Martine did this really lovely card trick quilt with neutral colours. Someone else only wanted to do one block and made it into a bag, and someone else did a table runner. And these were some of the other blocks being worked on. You can do whatever size you want, just draw out your size and then remember to add on your seam allowances. I think it would make a lovely baby quilt as well. Loads of possibilities. So I'll leave you now with me and my daughter getting some quilty glamour shots. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.